Another stadium, West Ham, have been confirmed as the new tenants of the Olympic Stadium after agreeing a deal for a 99-year lease. Under the agreement, West Ham will be given the right to use the stadium for all their matches, but they will not own the ground. The London Legacy Development Corporation will have the rights to the income from other events, such as music concerts, and there'll also be a legacy for athletics. Well, here are the key points. The government have agreed to put in an extra £25 million towards the costs of converting the stadium, taking their overall contribution to £60 million. West Ham have also increased their own funding from £5 to £15 million. It's thought the cost of adapting the stadium will be between £150 and £190 million. West Ham will move in from August 2016 and they will pay £2 million in rent a year. Under the plans, the roof will be extended, the seating capacity reduced from 80,000 to 54,000. The retractable system will allow the venue to be converted from an athletics arena to a football stadium within days. And crucially, it's been agreed that the seats will slide over the running track to bring the fans closer to the pitch.
I'm absolutely thrilled particularly thrilled that we've signed this deal today. Particularly, I was pleased that it was signed while I was still young. I was worried that it was going to go on indefinitely. But thankfully, the deal has been done and a new exciting future for West Ham Football Club. It's also great for London. I think this is a great deal for London. I think this is a great deal for the country, in fact.
We really feel privileged to be going into this stadium. We realise how important it is for East London and the community. We've had 13 sell-out games in a row at Upton Park, and we desperately need a bigger stadium to make football affordable for all. And we will be continuing our policy of kids for £1, half-price game for adults. We want football to be affordable for the ordinary working-class man, not just the corporate people, and that's.
They share our vision for East London. They've been that community club in Newham for the last 100 years, and today's decision ensures that they'll be that for the next 100 years.
There were some people, you may remember, who doubted this city's ability to deliver a famous and successful Olympic Games. Nobody in this room, of course. But they were confounded, and they then changed tack, and they then began to doubt the economic future of those fantastic venues. Above all, the stadium that entered the hearts of the nation in the summer of last year. And those doubters and cynics pointed, quite rightly actually as it happens, to the various Olympic stadiums around the world where the buddleia is sprouting up through the concrete and nothing's running down the track except tumbleweed. So I'm today very pleased to announce that this fantastic stadium over there will not only host community sports and rock concerts and athletics and like the Diamond League, which we're going to have this summer, and all sorts of other sports where the ball is not necessarily spherical. This Olympic Stadium will now be the home of a great London football club.
Well, this is how the funding for the conversion breaks down. The government are the biggest contributors. They will be paying around £60 million. There's also going to be a £40 million loan from Newham Council. The London Legacy Development Corporation will pay £20 million, whilst West Ham will pay £15 million. There'll also be funding from the London Mayor's budget. Well, it brings to an end West Ham's association with Upton Park, or the bowling ground, where they've played since 1904, has a capacity of 35,000, 19,000 less than the capacity of the Olympic Stadium once it's been converted.
West Ham can't fill a 35,000-seater stadium and advertise in newspapers, London newspapers, all week to try and sell tickets, and we fill it probably 6 times a season. And to go to 60,000 and say maybe it's going to be cheaper for fans to get in, how are they going to pay for the stadium? The government have got involved in paying for the stadium. Anybody who's been around that area might say that the hospitals probably needed it and the schools probably needed it a little bit more than a professional football club. But for me, I'll always be a West Ham fan. So whether they're at that Olympic Stadium or at Upton Park, I'll go and I'll support it. But I don't think the reasons are correct, and for me it's a sad day.
Well, it's not just Tony Gale opposed to the move. Fans we spoke to this morning are also against the move.
Myself and an awful lot of season ticket holders, match attending fans do not want to leave the Boleyn and go to a stadium that was not purpose-built for football. I've seen the plans for the stadium. I won't renew my season ticket there. It will not be suitable for football.
We're going to lose it all if we go straight to Stratford. The area's going to lose its atmosphere, it's going to lose its business, it's going to lose everything. The area's going to die.
Pubs are closing every day. The only thing that keeps them boys' heads above water is when West Ham play and the pubs are jam-packed with people not worrying about what they're spending that day. They have that one day, like 2 days a month, keeps their head above water. Now, that's all going to go to Stratford. Now, I love Stratford, nothing wrong with Stratford. They had the Olympics, they've had everything else. Leave a little bit of here.
Well, once they do move in, West Ham will be home to the 3rd largest club football ground in the country. Old Trafford is currently the biggest, with a capacity of 76,000. Arsenal's Emirates Stadium has a capacity of just over 60,000. West Ham will then have the 3rd with 54,000, and Newcastle St James's Park is the only other football ground with a capacity of over 50,000. Geraint Hughes is at the Olympic Stadium for us. And we will have more from him a little bit later on, because what we can do now is speak to someone who is not necessarily completely unhappy with the fact that West Ham are moving in. It's just the fact that he and his football club, Leyton Orient, can't move in with them. The chairman of Leyton Orient, Barry Hearn, joins us on the phone now. Barry, thanks very much for speaking to us. We heard from Boris Johnson, the London mayor, a few moments ago, and he wasn't really willing to talk about the Leyton Orient situation because he feels that it's subject to judicial review. Just bring us up to date with your stance and whether that process has actually started.
Well, yes, we've applied to the High Court for judicial review on the situation regarding the Olympic Stadium. We think today's announcement is jumping the gun, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, the decision of the High Court will be whether or not the bidding process rules were followed by LLDC. We say they weren't, and that we weren't given the opportunity to enter into the teaming discussions that the bid process allowed. We think this is a fundamental flaw in the bidding process, and we're applying to the High Court for decision to sling the whole lot out. I think they may have jumped the gun.
As far as you saying the London Legacy Development Corporation didn't give you the consideration and weren't willing to almost broach the subject, how did you ensure that your proposal was put to the forefront of their priorities? Did you do all you can to ensure that they were going to consider it or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's their rules, not mine. The bidding process rules were agreed by everybody. West Ham, Leyton Orient and the other bidders, they agreed to the principle of teaming. And yet we weren't allowed, during the process, to investigate the possibilities of teaming, which would have allowed Leyton Orient to survive and would have allowed the community club, not a multi-million-pound commercial enterprise, clearly now being sponsored by the government, to take occupation into the football club as well. We didn't think that Leyton Orient, being in the Olympic Stadium, sharing with West Ham, harmed anybody, and we think it actually added to the mix. What we're left with is a situation where the government and Newham Borough Council are clearly subsidising and sponsoring a major commercial enterprise, paying for it out of taxpayers' money. We don't think the current situation is at all right, and I'm not surprised so many people are up in arms about it.
Why do you think they weren't willing to consider it? What's your gut feeling on it?
I think my gut feeling is that West Ham didn't want to share. They wanted the stadium to be theirs. And there's some very interesting questions to be asked about what deals were done in corridors or whispered behind people's backs about whether any assurance was given to West Ham that there wouldn't be any other football club involved in the stadium. That needs to be answered, because the rules are the rules. They're not my rules. I stress they're not Leyton Orient's rules. They're not West Ham's rules. The LLDC's bidding process rules clearly stated that everyone must sign up to the principle of teaming, in other words, sharing the stadium. Those rules have not been followed. We believe the LLDC has made a massive mistake. We know that certain people, including the Minister of Sport, have said they don't think this is a problem. I think they're not lawyers, and neither am I. So we'll let the judges in the High Court decide, and we'll see where we go from there.
Now, you've been battling, obviously, against the Premier League club, You're not a small club, you've got a great history, but you are in League One, so it's almost a David and Goliath sort of situation. How confident are you that you can still slip a spanner in the works?
Well, I'm never confident. All I want is fair play, and if I'm following rules, I want those rules to be followed. I don't like the sound of this deal. It doesn't smell right in today's financial climate that Newham Borough suddenly fined £40 million when clearly every borough is struggling and people are losing their jobs and facilities and social services are being reduced. Suddenly we find everyone falling over backwards to leverage West Ham into the Olympic Stadium. You know, when Arsenal built their stadium, they paid for it themselves. When Tottenham are building their stadium, they're going to pay for it themselves. So West Ham seem to be the beneficiaries of this amazing deal, which seems to me to be at the taxpayer's cost. Now, if in principle we say that's part of the Olympic legacy, I understand. But surely the local football club, 750 yards away from the Olympic Park, should have had the opportunity as well. We were never given the chance of that opportunity. I feel very strongly about this, and I know it's an uphill battle. I'm not stupid. I know this is a David and Goliath. I know everyone would rather I went away. The sad news is I'm not.
No, and I mean, we appreciate you talking to us about it, and I'm sure many people will see your view. It's interesting when David Sullivan said in the press conference earlier on that it's turned out to be a great deal for everyone. I just wanted to sort of try and find out what communications you had with West Ham, because sometimes people say that it's best to communicate directly with people.
Absolutely.
Were they willing to talk to you?
No, I mean, I've known David Sullivan. He's a nice man for 25 years. He didn't want any discussion on this whatsoever. I think he was advised by his lawyers, no discussion. We've had no discussions whatsoever with West Ham about ground sharing, none whatsoever. And I think that's a breach of the rules of the bidding process. Clearly, West Ham want to give the impression that this stadium is theirs for football. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair just in a commercial sense or in a moral sense. We have a little tiny football club, 130 years old, one of the biggest serving community clubs in the country, being forgotten about, being overlooked, and frankly being steamrolled by bureaucracy. Someone has to say, hang on a minute. Firstly, is this deal for West Ham a proper deal, or does it breach European law in state sponsorship? Because it sounds to me that West Ham are getting too many helping hands. Secondly, if this is the case, why are we ignoring the needs of the incumbent community club 750 yards away? Why have we not given these people the opportunity to ground share, as they do throughout Europe, where major clubs have alternate weeks with a community club? That sends out the right message, and people will understand that is worth spending money on. That is the true legacy of the Olympic Stadium, not sponsoring a massive commercial enterprise who are supposed to, with the amount of money coming in via TV deals, supposed to be capable of standing on their own feet.
Just one final point, Barry, because it's obviously been levelled at West Ham that they currently don't necessarily sell out Upton Park, which has got a capacity of 35,000. I mean, you don't sell out Brisbane Road, so does it necessarily make sense that you would be in the best position to be in such a massive stadium? Can you understand that?
I could. I absolutely agree with it as well. What I would say to you is it's clear that West Ham are going to struggle to sell out Upton Park. But they're moving into a 60,000-seater stadium, nearly double their capacity. They've already said they're going to do huge family discounts and cheap tickets. So you can imagine the competition value just around the corner from Lake Norrin. It will eventually put us out of business. What we're saying is it doesn't matter that people can live their dreams. That's what the Olympics was all about. We can move in there. We can take our 5,000 fans. We can add free tickets, because we're not a money club. We're not interested in the money. We're interested in survival. West Ham are a money operation. They're a huge commercial entity with a £100 million turnover business. If anyone needs help, which is surely the whole point of the Olympic legacy, it's Lake Norrin Football Club, the incumbent community club. We need a chance to live our dreams as well. And I think our dreams are being taken away, and that, we believe, is in direct contrast to what the rules of this bidding process say. This is a straightforward question to the High Court in England. We think the LLDC have made, and I quote my lawyers, a massive, massive mistake. Now, we'll find out. If we're wrong, we'll hold our hands up and there'll be no more judicial reviews. If we're right, then we should start the conversation again aimed at a ground share, bringing real community value, not hypothetical community value. I'm talking about, I look at West Ham's community balance sheet, it doesn't look good. If you analyse what actually really happens in the real world, Leyton Orient are a blinding light of hope for community activities within London. So don't listen to the press statements, look at real life. Leyton Orient deserve to be heard, and at the moment they're being ignored.
Barry, we appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Coventry this morning.